Today in our club, we're going to learn a little bit about an artist named Keith Haring. And we're going to make our own work of art inspired by him. Keith was known for creating beautiful works of art with bold, cartoon-like figures. So first, we're going to read a story, and we're going to create our work of art and learn a little bit more about his life. Keith Haring, the boy who just kept drawing. Written by K.A. Haring. Keith Haring, the boy who just kept drawing. There was a boy named Keith. When he was little, his father taught him how to draw dogs and fish and funny things. His dad would draw a line, then Keith would draw one. Soon the whole page would be full. From that time on, Keith never stopped drawing. In elementary school, while taking tests, Keith doodled on the edge of his paper. When he handed in his work, his teachers would ask, "Why did you doodle on this important paper?" Keith didn't answer. He went back to his desk and just kept drawing. Sometimes Keith invited his friends to draw in his backyard clubhouse. Keith made symbols and said each one represented a letter of the alphabet. His friends asked, "Why do you use symbols to write?" Keith drew more symbols. It was his way of answering their questions. He encouraged his friends to join him. As a teenager, Keith liked to draw in his bedroom with music playing loud. He would draw on every piece of paper he could find. His mother had to yell over the music, "Why can't you turn that music down and go outside to ride your bike?" But Keith had sold his bike to buy art supplies. So he answered, "Look at the cool drawings I did." And he just kept drawing. When Keith was in high school, he won first prize for his art. A successful couple from town offered to buy his drawing. Keith said, "No, thank you. If you enjoy my art, you may hang it on your wall. No charge." Keith's sisters were shocked. "Why didn't you take the money?" they asked. Keith shrugged. He just wanted to keep drawing. Keith graduated from high school and went to the big city of Pittsburgh to a school that would teach him about art. There were boys on the street trying something new, breakdancing. He liked the crazy shapes of their bodies as they turned and flipped on the ground. While the music played loud, Keith started drawing wiggly lines. His teachers asked him, "Why are you drawing pictures that look like scrambled bodies? This is not what we told you to draw." Keith knew how to draw. He just wanted to draw in different ways. And he kept drawing. Keith moved to the huge city of New York when he was 20, so he could draw with other artists. He started to draw all over the city, on walls, on sidewalks, and on paper that he hung on lampposts. His drawings were washed away by the rain or torn down by street cleaners. Other artists asked Keith, "Why do you draw in places where your pictures are erased?" Keith didn't hear them. He was searching for another wall so he could keep drawing. Keith got a job delivering packages and sometimes rode the subway. One day, he saw a panel of black paper on the wall in a station. He rushed outside to buy chalk and came back and began to draw. The white chalk made bright, smooth lines on the black paper. Day after day, Keith filled the empty panels in the subway stations with art. Soon people who rode the subway were looking for the white chalk drawings. No one knew the name of the artist, but his drawings were easy to recognize. People asked him, "Why are you drawing here? What do your pictures mean?" Keith said, "What do you see?" You decide what they mean. Where Keith lived, there was trash on the street, and people didn't always say hello to each other. One day, he and his friends cleaned up 20 bags of garbage in front of a long wall. Then, Keith painted square faces with smiles and body shapes dancing upside down. The neighbors liked the drawings and stopped to say thank you. A policeman came by and lectured Keith. "Why did you do this? I have to give you a ticket because you did not get permission." Keith paid the fine and just kept drawing. Soon, people wanted to see more of Keith's drawings, and he was asked to display his work in an art gallery. Art was hung from floor to ceiling, and in between, he painted on the walls. Keith invited everyone to come and enjoy his work. All of Keith's artwork sold. The gallery owner asked him, "What are you going to do with all this money?" Keith said, "I read in the newspaper that there are kids who don't have enough to eat. I didn't have this money yesterday and I was happy. If I don't have it tomorrow, I'll still be happy. All children need to eat. I'll send the money to them." The gallery owner gasped, "Why?" Keith just smiled and started to draw again. Now people were inviting Keith to draw in famous museums and exhibit in galleries all over the world. He was proud that he had become a successful artist, but wherever he went, Keith insisted he paint a mural so everyone could enjoy his work, not just the people who had money to buy it. During a visit to Paris, France, Keith painted on the outside of a children's hospital, 6 stories high. Newspaper reporters came to take pictures and asked, "Why did you paint at the hospital? Do you think it will make the sick children feel better?" Keith didn't have time to answer. He had to finish the painting. When the Statue of Liberty was 100 years old, Keith drew an outline of the famous statue on a huge piece of vinyl fabric. Then he asked 900 kids to help him finish the drawing. Keith told them, "Draw anything, whatever you want. No one can say it's bad or good. It's yours." When the giant painting was displayed, people were amazed to see what Keith and the kids had made. But the art critics couldn't understand why a famous artist was drawing with kids. But you know Keith, he just kept drawing. Keith painted all over the world. He would draw on anything, anytime, anywhere. Wherever he went and whatever he did, he would not stop. He just kept drawing. Now everyone wanted to know, and together they shouted, "Why? Why do you draw all the time? Why do you give your artwork away? Why do you draw on buildings, on people, on clothing, on furniture, on subway walls, on cars, on skateboards, on walls that belong to no one, and on things to be thrown away? Why do you draw on everything?" Keith stopped drawing just for a moment and answered, "I draw all the time because there are many spaces to fill. I give my drawings away to help make the world a better place. I draw everywhere because everyone needs art." Then Keith turned back to the street, took a piece of chalk from his pocket, and he just kept drawing. At the back of this book is an author's note. The author, the person who wrote this book, is Keith Haring's sister, so she knows a lot about him. We also have this great book, A Story of Keith Haring, Drawing on Walls, and it's written by Matthew Burgess. I hope you enjoyed the story about Keith Haring. We're going to learn a little bit more about his life later on in the program. For now, let's get started creating our work of art. You should have this supply list in your take-home kit. There are a few items that the library is giving you, and there are a few items that you should probably have at home. So first we're going to take our green paint using the foam paintbrush. You can make smooth strokes all across the canvas, or you can do short strokes. If you like, you can also paint the edges of the canvas. When you reach the bottom of our green portion of the canvas, try to make the line as straight as possible. Next, we're going to use our yellow paint. For that, we're going to use the foam paintbrush again. You don't have to paint the yellow right up to the green line because we're going to be using black paint to make a line between these two. Now we're going to take our black paint and make a line between the green and yellow part of the canvas. And we're also going to make black dots on the yellow part of the canvas. So I'm taking a thin paintbrush, dipping it in the paint, and just make a line straight across. Now we're going to take a cotton swab, just make black dots along the yellow part of the canvas. You can make the dots anywhere you like. Again, this is your work of art. Now, while this dries, we're going to cut the cartoon characters so we can place them onto the canvas. Try to keep as much of this bold black line as possible. That's what Keith Haring was known for. His characters were always drawn in black, bold lines. I'm going to cut these little black lines out because we can always add those in using black paint later on. Those little black lines were drawn by Keith Haring to make the character look like it was moving. There's our first character. If you're finding it difficult to cut around the black lines of your character, you can always place it in the painting, just like this. Or you can cut around the shape as best as you can and just place it that way. Again, this is supposed to be fun and creative. So if you prefer to just cut around the character instead of cutting along all of the black lines, you can do that. Now our shapes are ready to place onto the canvas. Just open the container of Mod Podge. It's a little bit like glue. Going to take the foam paintbrush and use it to put some Mod Podge on the back of each character. And this is where you can get creative. You can place these characters anywhere that you like. You can place them upside down, sideways, right side up, however you like. Even if you get some Mod Podge on the front of the character, it's okay because it dries clear. Now you can see some of the Mod Podge is on the characters, but that's okay because it dries clear. So while we wait for this to dry, we're going to learn a little bit about Keith Haring's life. Then we're going to finish our work of art. Keith Haring was born on May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania. He moved to New York City in 1978 and began using the city as his canvas, making chalk drawings in subway stations. His art was eventually seen everywhere, from public murals to galleries and museums around the world. Keith Haring died on February 16, 1990, at the age of 31. Our painting has dried. So now we're going to take the container labeled Mod Podge and a foam paintbrush and spread the Mod Podge on top of the whole painting. When you're brushing the Mod Podge onto the canvas, don't press down very hard because it can cause the paint to smear even though it's dry. And it can also pull the characters off of the canvas. So make sure you're doing this in a very delicate way. The Mod Podge looks like glue when you first put it on your canvas, but as it dries, it becomes clear and shiny. Let this dry for 3 to 4 hours to reveal your work of art.